What's my favorite song? Decision 2010 is here again. 5 more months of the animation and the song. Everything. Tonight is primary night in Alabama, in Mississippi, and in the great state of New Mexico. In Alabama, Democratic Congressman Arthur Davis is vying to be Alabama's first African-American governor. At the moment, with a whopping 3% of precincts reporting, Agriculture Commissioner Ron Sparks has the lead in the Democratic gubernatorial primary over Arthur Davis. But again, 3%. Don't jump to any conclusions. Over on the Republican side in the Alabama governor's race, there are 7 people running for the Republican gubernatorial nomination. Alabama is a runoff state, and the top 2 contenders on that side will likely face off in the July 13th runoff there. Speaking of runoffs, Congressman Parker Griffith, who was elected a Democrat in 2008 but switched parties in December to become a Republican, he is facing 2 opponents in Alabama's 5th district in the Republican primary there. Unless he can get 50% plus 1 of the vote, Mr. Griffith will have to keep it up for the July 13th runoff elections, which could be very difficult for him. Over in Mississippi, which is also a runoff state, the most interesting race is the Republican battle for the 1st congressional district. An African-American woman named Angela McGlowan is running there against the establishment-backed state senator Alan Nunnally and ex-Bush Justice Department official Henry Ross. Results still coming in for that race, but at the moment, with 21% of precincts reporting, the establishment candidate, Senator Nunnally, has 51% of the vote, obviously hoping to avoid a runoff there. Now, the polls in New Mexico closed about half an hour ago, 9 p.m. Eastern. Results are still coming in from New Mexico, too close to call for those races so far. But next Tuesday, of course, will be another big election night, another opportunity to play my favorite song. Next Tuesday, elections in 12 states, 10 primaries, the Arkansas runoff election, and a special election in Georgia. Those results will come with analysis, experts trying to extrapolate what they mean for November. But as meaningful as tonight's results and the results next Tuesday will be to the winners and to the non-winners, they won't necessarily have much predictive value for November's big showdown for control of the House and the Senate and the state houses. We like to extrapolate from storylines that we like. We like to downplay the storylines that we don't like. But honestly, when you look at the predictive value of primaries, it sort of comes down to turnout. Voter turnout is the one that actually sort of can foretell the midterm results. Which party's base was more motivated to actually show up on primary night? That party could have an advantage come fall when the chips are really down. And turnout numbers take time to determine. Here are some of the most important turnout numbers from the last primary night and the May 18th primaries, most notably in Kentucky. Remember Rand Paul? Of course you do. Don't be coy. Dr. Rand Paul walloped the Republican establishment pick in the Senate primary in Kentucky. Trey Grayson came in second. For all the election night coverage and even the coverage that followed, the voter turnout numbers suggest something rather more important about those Kentucky Senate races. The loser of the Democratic Senate primary, the loser on the Democratic race, got more votes than the winner of the Republican race. Rand Paul won his primary over Trey Grayson with just under 207,000 votes. Lieutenant Governor Dan Mongiardo had 225,000 votes, and the Democratic winner, the Kentucky Attorney General Jack Conway, had 229,000 votes. So more Democratic voters than Republican voters decided to show up and vote, despite there being a lot more national attention to the Republican race. That's interesting. So we will keep an eye on all the races tonight, and for the rest of the primary season, we will also keep track of who turned out in what numbers, which may actually be the most important thing that happens on these exciting Tuesday nights. Joining us now is Ed Schultz, host of MSNBC's The Ed Show and author of the new book, Killer Politics: How Big Money and Bad Politics Are Destroying the Great American Middle Class. Ed, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Rachel. I know why you like that animation. It has an official sound to it.
Yeah.
Anytime you can do something official, right?
It makes me feel I belong here.
Yeah.
This is exactly what I'm meant to be doing. When you look at what's going on, I mean, obviously tonight, not a huge primary night, but races are happening. Had a slightly bigger one last Tuesday, definitely bigger one coming up next Tuesday. These primaries, are they starting to give shape to you? Any shape that you can see to what's going to happen in the midterms?
Well, I think next Tuesday night in Arkansas, it's going to be big because this is really the first of 4 senators on the Democratic side and the independent side that fought health care, the public option, and some other provisions in there that was supposed to be part of the government takeover. You had Joe Lieberman, Ben Nelson, Mary Landrieu, and Blanche Lincoln. Lincoln's the first one up. She's facing a tremendous challenge from Bill Halter, Lieutenant Governor, who is getting a lot of support from progressives around the country. And if the progressives win that primary, I think it sends a statement that there's not going to be this huge landfall of Republican seats being won in the midterm, because the progressive base has still got a pretty good grip about what this mission is all about. That what happened in the last 8 years and how the deregulation has handed us all the multitude of problems that have been out there. And I think there's a great deal of awareness and consciousness amongst the progressives in this country that this is an opportunity, and I'm giving analysis of how I think the progressive movement views this. This is an opportunity for the Democrats, the liberals, the progressives, to take out a corporate Democrat. And that's Blanche Lincoln. Now, she may have done some good things, but how she's viewed and perception's everything right now.
Do you buy the common wisdom that electing a more progressive Democrat in a conservative state, relatively conservative state like Arkansas, sets Democrats up worse for the general election?
Well, no, I don't. I think it sends a message to other centrist corporate Democrats that are out there that get too cozy with Wall Street, that get too cozy with the big money, that, there's going to be a wake-up call. Mm-hmm. And you could find yourself on the radar screen of the people who are still into this hope and change and believe that we've got to do something in this country to get the middle class back thriving again.
I was struck in the book, you make the case that, there was all this work done essentially to pave the way for Obama's election, all this work done on the progressive side. And when he was elected, you sort of make a joke about everything's fine and we can all just go fishing. Everything's done. And on the one hand, you're sort of making this case that people need to keep fighting. I mean, you on the cover, you have boxing gloves on. Yeah. On the other hand, I think you sort of, in the book, in a lot of different ways, document that liberals really still are fighting, that people haven't been back on their heels and resting and demoralized by the fact that politics is still difficult.
We're not afraid to throw our folks under the bus. I mean, if they don't do what they said they were going to do when they're running, and I think that really is the difference between the progressive movement and the conservative movement in this country. I mean, the conservatives, okay, they all line up for the good of the order. What I think Democrats are doing right now, the ones that I describe and write about in the book, are ones that are bound and determined. I mean, we're at a very crucial point in this country's history. We're either going to do this or we're not. We're either going to make sure that the working families of this country have a fighting chance. And one of the things that I really wanted to accomplish in this book was I wanted the tone to represent what I've heard on the road for the last 2.5 years of doing town hall meetings. And I kept getting this reoccurring theme from people in all the different markets that we were going to, like, we're falling behind, and nobody's saying anything about it. So I wanted to write a book on the middle class and represent the everyday struggles and the numbers. There's a lot of research in the book are just absolutely staggering on what has happened for the top 1%, the deregulation that's taken place, the dirty money in politics that has shaken down the politician and influenced our elections, and who's out there with almost no representation? The middle class. That's right. And if we just have a country of super rich, and the dirt poor, we're not going to be a great country. And we can save this. I know we can, and I've got a roadmap there.
And the corrosive effect on American values to lose the middle class, I think, is something that you sort of nail, both in the way that you present it and the way you argue it. So, Ed, I enjoyed the book, and I'm happy that I got you to stay up late and come on my show.
I appreciate it very much.
Ed.
Thank you,
Good
Rachel. It's great to be on with you.
Ed Schultz is going to be broadcasting from Arkansas the night of the Bill Halter and Blanche Lincoln primary, which is going to be very exciting. I might piggyback on that trip if I can. You never know.
Arkansas is a wonderful place. Little Rock will be there next Tuesday night.
Excellent, Ed. All right. Killer Politics, How Big Money and Bad Politics Are Destroying the Great American Middle Class is the name of Big Ed's new book. All right. Still ahead, how should politicians who misrepresent their military careers be punished? Fine and imprisonment, thundered conservative Utah Senator Orrin Hatch. Unless it's a Republican caught fudging his record, and then it's sort of a stern talking to, pat on the back for creativity, maybe. Orrin Hatch gets caught out being very, very partisan in a bad way. Please stay with us.